South Africa has been a success story, and the reconciliation between blacks and white has been an enormous achievement that really has to be laid at the door of Nelson Mandela, who was an extraordinary person. But it is in danger now of becoming engulfed in corruption, and the ANC itself is aware of this, has said so several times. Its allies in the trade union movement, say that there's a danger of South Africa becoming what they call a predatory state, where the elites literally suck the wealth out of the country. That is a real danger. And in some ways, when the rest of Africa is now beginning to grow at between 5–6% a year, South Africa is in danger of slipping backwards. And in some ways, I'm more worried about South Africa than I am about the rest of Africa. Mr. Zuma is a much underestimated man. People have always thought that he was poorly educated, really just a charming, he's a very pleasant man, but not a serious person. He's very clever, he's very shrewd. One shouldn't forget that he was in charge of the ANC's intelligence when they were underground and in exile. And he is someone who has a long history and a long memory. I would not bet against Mr. Zuma being in power this time next year. I think South Africa is very poorly reported in the West. There was a narrative which said apartheid was appalling, which of course it was. Then you got this nice Mr. Mandela who came there, and that's the end of the problem. The ANC is in power, all is going well. There's a bit of problem with crime, but perhaps it's been exaggerated, and they're nice beaches, so that's the end of the issue. People really don't understand South Africa and the problems that it now faces, particularly the issue of corruption, which is eroding away at the moral basis of the ANC and at the foundations of the society itself. Let me give you one example. In the last few weeks, it's been revealed that in the first 6 months of this year, school children in one of the poorest provinces didn't receive a single textbook because of the way the whole contract had been negotiated. You cannot run a country like that. The land issue is one of the most tricky in South Africa. It is an absolute outrage that basically 13% of the land was in the hands of the vast majority of the population, the black population, and 87% was in the hands of whites. But 90% of the land that has been handed over to black farmers is now lying idle, and the government is now desperately concerned about this because it is eroding the agricultural base. Because one side of land, the other side is of course the farms and the farmers, and there is really no way of squaring that circle, because you cannot transfer land that made a decent living for one family to a group of, say, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 families and expect it to work, especially if they have no capital, no seeds, no knowledge of how to grow in South Africa. And South African agriculture is quite difficult. So the agricultural side of the land equation has really fallen away, and the government has no real answer into how to deal with it. I think that if one wants to summarize in a cliche, I would say that South Africa is ruled by the securocrats and the fat cats. The securocrats in the sense of the various spy networks that now operate inside South Africa. These are ones, the official ones of the state, and ones run by the ANC. These were the groups that fought each other in the clash between Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma. The fat cats are the new black economic elite who've emerged since the ANC took power. And it's the relationship between those two groups that are really the ruling party, the ruling power in South Africa.